have is the Atlas. It only went on display about a month ago.
Ah, okay.
So it's fairly new.
So Facebook.
Oh, pardon?
I saw your Facebook.
Okay, yeah. So that's our newest missile is the Atlas. That's in the missile gallery, and then the fourth building is a fourth hangar like this, and that has the space displays. So that's got Mercury, Gemini, Apollo capsule, has a space shuttle display, has some satellites, those type of displays. Has the research and development, which are the experimental airplanes, the X-1, X-15, the XB-70, so the experimental airplanes are in there. The presidential airplanes, so the Air Force One airplanes, those are in the fourth building, and then also Global Reach, which are the cargo planes. So that's all in the fourth building. As I said, I'm only going to be covering the first building. There are tours of the other buildings. Second building tours at 11:30. Third building is at 1:30. Fourth building, the tours at 3. I'll try to be done with my tour by about 11:25, so that you have enough time to go catch the tour of the second building if you're interested in seeing the next tour. Okay, having covered all that, we're also the oldest military aviation museum. We trace our history back 100 years. We just recently had our centennial. Back in May of 1923, the Army Air Service had an engineering center at the Cook Field, which is was south of here. It's closer to Dayton. Basically, they did all their engineering flight testing, ground testing there, and because of that, they had a collection of aircraft parts, engines, propellers, things like that. In May of 1923, they opened it up to the public, so people could come in and see the collection. It was very popular, so they continued letting people in. They kind of expanded it, made it more formal as a museum, and that's basically where the museum grew from. This particular building here was opened in 1971. This first hangar building was opened in 1971, so the collection came here. Since then, we've added buildings. The fourth building is the newest one. It was opened in 2016. So that's the history. We're still planning on doing further expansion as we get more airplanes to display, but right now we're probably maybe another 10 years or so before we build the next building. Okay, so that's the history. Quick introduction, my name's Rick Wetzel. I'm a retired aeronautical engineer, so I'm an airplane geek. That's why I spend my time here at the museum. I like airplanes. So I assume you all are interested in airplanes, or at least history. So, okay, as long as
Do you have water machines around here? Because I just walked in from outside, it's really hot. Water machines.
Yeah, there are some water fountains as you go around.
Oh, yeah.
They're near the restrooms. Yeah, you'll just look for the restrooms. I don't think this restroom has one, but there's a water fountain around by the other restroom. And when you get a second building, there's a few windows. And there's also you can buy some water at some of the locations. But okay, so I'd like to start with a quick question. Who can tell me the year of the first manned flight? First manned flight of a powered control heavier than their aircraft. But the first manned flight actually took place 120 years earlier in 1783. That was a hot air balloon. So come around here, look up here, we have a model hanging up here of the Montgolfier brothers hot air balloon. As I said, it flew in 1783, 120 years before the Wright brothers. That was the first manned flight. It was not powered, it was not controlled, and it was lighter than aircraft. So it was basically because it was filled with hot air, it floated. About a month after that, another Frenchman filled a balloon with hydrogen, another gas that's lighter than air, that also floats. So that was really the start of manned flight. Now, about 10 years after that, in the 1790s, the French Army started using hydrogen-filled balloons for observation. They have an observer in a basket hanging below the balloon. The balloon would be tethered by a long rope so it wouldn't blow away, but the observer up in the basket could see what was going on the ground, report back to the generals, and that was basically the extent of military aviation. And that remained the state of art of military aviation for the next century. So well into the 1900s, that was still the only military aviation, was observation balloons. Here in the United States, the first time we used observation balloons was during the American Civil War in the 1860s. Both the Union and the Confederacy had observation balloons. They only had a couple each. They were only used for about 2 years. The problem at that time was, in order to move the balloons, you basically have to pull them down, deflate them, put them in a wagon, move them to a new location, reinflate them, put them back up. It took the better part of a day to move from one location to another. And during the Civil War, the battle lines were moving very rapidly, so they really couldn't keep up. So the generals weren't very impressed from that standpoint. Also, the balloons were owned and operated by civilians who worked under contract to the Army, and that, of course, caused conflict between the generals and the contractors. So again, wasn't real popular with the generals, so they were only used for about 2 years, and then they stopped using them. It wasn't until the 1890s that the Army finally bought their own balloons. They trained a small detachment of soldiers to operate and maintain the balloons. Those balloons were used during the Spanish-American War in 1898. If you remember hearing of excuse me, Teddy Roosevelt's charge up San Juan Hill with the Rough Riders, in that battle he was supported by an observation balloon. So they were using observation balloons during that battle and that war. But after that war, the balloons were damaged. The Army didn't want to spend money to repair them, so they got rid of the balloons and disbanded the detachment, sent the soldiers to other units. Finally, in 1907, the Army established an aeronautical division as part of the Signal Corps that would be put in charge of anything related to aeronautics. Anything that would go up in the air would fall under the purview of that aeronautical division. That aeronautical division grew and expanded and became the Army Air Service, then the Army Air Corps, then the Army Air Force. Finally, in 1947, it was split off as an independent service and became the United States Air Force. So we trace our history all the way back to that aeronautical division in 1907. Now, having said all that, since I'm only going to be showing you airplanes up to the end of World War II, all the aircraft that I will show you will actually be Army aircraft. You won't see any Air Force airplanes until you get to the second building in the Korean War. Okay? Yes, question?
Yeah, the road outside is called Spatter.